Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 16 millimeter Film Crew. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Dale.
You can watch us on YouTube. You can like and comment on our YouTube videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can listen to us everywhere podcasts are found at 16 millimeter Film Crew Podcast. And you can visit us on our website at www.16millimeterfilmcrew.com. This week, we watched Anora, directed by Sean Baker. Anora, a young woman from Brooklyn, gets her chance at a Cinderella story when she meets and marries the son of an oligarch. Once the news reaches Russia, her fairy tale is threatened as the parents set out for New York to get the marriage annulled. This movie stars Mikey Madsen, Mark Edelstein, and Yura Borisov. So, Dale, talk us through your thoughts on this one.
I don't
You
know
watched on a
this.
plane.
Well, started watching on the plane, and then I kind of wasn't feeling it, so I decided, all right, cool. I'm gonna wait till I can sit down and actually pay attention to it fully. Also, because some of the scenes in this movie you can't really watch on the plane. I'm learning it the hard way as I
Mm.
travel. But so yeah, but I don't know. It's felt like a horrible version of what's Uncut Gems, like how we spoke about the other day. It wasn't as engaging, I guess, as Uncut Gems. Movie was actually very predictable in a way. I guess some people like predictability. Like I didn't know what she expected it to happen this way. Like he was actually gonna just stay with her married. Like his parents were gonna come. She thought this was real. Like I understand she's looking at their whole relationship as her ticket to no longer have to be an exotic dancer, but and like it's supposed to be a comedy drama, but I felt like the drama was like too overdone. But I guess that's supposed to be on the comedy side. But the comedy was not really funny either. At most of the time, I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? You know, so I don't know. And that's sad because this is from um Sean Baker, does amazing work. I mean, but this is also I think this is like on the trend of the Palme d'Or going to movies that I don't know, that scratch or itch for some people. Like this reminds me of watching Titan all over again. Like and how people raved about it and not getting what, I was expecting from it based on the reviews from other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I I did like this movie. Do I think it's like the best movie I've ever seen or like worth all of the hype? I
Mm,
think it's worth some hype, but I guess I'll get to my feelings about awards chatter and all that stuff when we get to that piece later in the episode. But overall, I did enjoy it, I think. I thought it was funny. I liked the energy that the film kind of had in some parts, and I really liked Mikey Madsen's performance. I think that that is kind of the best for
mm,
me. That was like one of the best things was her performance in it. She was so good. Um, and I think that it's really cool that this movie exists. So regardless of like if I thought the movie was like the best thing ever, I do think that like the fact that it is getting this kind of attention is a really good thing because
mm.
it's a movie that focuses on sex work, and I think the destigma destigmatize okay, hold on, let me pronounce this correctly. Destigmatization
Yeah, you
of
got it.
sex work
You got it.
is really good and really important.
Hmm.
And so I feel like the fact that this kind of subject matter is at the forefront of the movie is actually a really good thing. And you can kind of see like the ins and outs of like how this thing works and that it's not like it really is a job. Like people aren't like, and it's for me, it's kind of sad because I just don't think that like I feel like all of our institutions have failed us so poorly to the fact that like
Hmm.
our we have to use our bodies for work. That sucks. Like that shouldn't even be a thing. Like we should all be housed and we should all have employment and we should all have health care. Like I feel like those are things that we should just have as people who live on this planet. But anyways, that's a different conversation. But I think that this movie definitely touches on that stuff because the fact that Nora, our main character, is like interested in like really like being in this relationship with this kid. I thought he was literally 18 years old. I have no idea how old he is, but he looks like he's 18 years old. Um, and that she does, like you said, see him as her ticket. Oh yeah, her ticket out of this job. And for me, the fact that she is young kind of excuses a lot of the things that maybe would have pissed me off if she was like an older person. But the fact that she is like, what, she like 23, like you're very young at that stage. So it's like, yeah, I get why you would think like, oh, I can just meet this guy and like all my problems will be taken care of, like, because he has money. So I get it. Like, I get how you can fall into a situation like that. And honestly, the first half of the movie is like really fun. Like, they're going to Vegas, they're having a great time, they're partying
Yeah.
all the time. Like it just seems like it's I can see how you can get swept up into something like that. And then second half, the reality of the situation kind of comes crashing down on her. And she truly believes in her heart that this man loves her, which is it makes kind of what happens later really sad just because it's like I know as a fully formed adult that obviously this was not going to work out. But for her in her position, it's like this was like your one little grain of hope and now
Mm.
it's gone and like he didn't care about her and didn't see her as anything other than like
I'll jump
a
off.
basically that's yeah. So it honestly I feel like her belief and her performance in this movie like that was really what captured me in terms of like the movie overall. It definitely has that same element of Uncut Gems, like a lot of chaos, people talking over each other. Like there's this thing that we got to do, and if we don't, and like as the days and nights kind of continue, everything falls apart.
Mhm.
Like it does have that same energy, which is why I liked it because I love Uncut Gems. So I was like, okay, I like how this is flowing a bit, but it's not. It was different in a way that it wasn't like I can't describe it other than this, and this
Mhm.
might sound bad, but to me, Uncut Gems is like a black film that just happened to be made by white people. And the only reason I say that is because, like, I don't know, there's a lot of black people in that movie, and also like what's happening is like the guy is a gambler, right? But he's gambling on is basketball games. Like
Mhm.
that's like very central to our culture. I know that basketball is open to all races and that's genders. I'm not trying to specify that to us. I'm just
Mhm.
saying like it feels very familiar to me like watching watching the black films like came out back in the day. Not in the same like humor because obviously you can't make certain jokes, but like just in the okay, like I feel comfortable in this space as a black person, even though I know that this movie is not made by black people.
Mhm.
But I think that that gave it a certain kind of edge.
Mhm.
Like it made me like feel closer to it. Like everything felt, and I feel like we talked about this when we talked about the movie, but like it being shot in New York and stuff like that, like all of that kind of just made me feel closer to the film overall. But so maybe that's why I find it a little bit more engaging. Plus, I loved Adam's performance in that and everyone's performance in that. But I I feel like this is sort of similar in some kinds of ways. I know that they use some non-actors in this movie as well. So like it is kind of giving the same thing a little bit,
Mhm.
just from a female perspective and from a different angle of like this is sex work that was talking about a gambling addiction. Like so it's a different kind of thing, but it did have some energy because when I talked to my best friend, she was like, it reminded me of Uncut Gems. So
Yeah.
like I feel like everyone has that
Mm.
similar
Similarity. Yeah.
experience with it.
Mm.
But I didn't think it was bad. I just don't know if it was as good
It,
as people are
underwhelming.
saying. Mm,
It's underwhelming. Like you said before, Uncut Gems. I didn't see it as a black film, but I do think to your point, the city was also a character in New York City itself was a character in the movie. It played like you can't imagine that movie taking place in another city other than New York because that vibrancy, like New York City on its own, is a character. Like
Yeah.
there's a certain vibe you get as soon as you like land in New York, and you can feel it. And I think that was showcased Uncut Gems, especially from people like the Safis grew up in that area. It's something they're familiar with, you know. Which you kind of could say the same thing for Sean Baker. He a Jersey boy.
Mm.
This movie is shot in Jersey. Um, but even like the mob stuff, trying to lean heavy into the comedic elements, didn't feel like genuine to me. Like you got these two big guys struggling with this little girl, essentially. Like I was like, this is supposed to be funny, but I don't really find it funny. I know it's supposed to be funny based on when guy goes starts throwing up in the car and shit. That's those kind of stuff. It feels like a lot of the comedy elements he was going for were really cheap. Like Uncut Gems, like it's a serious movie, and the comedy comes off as kind of
Mm.
unexpected moment. Where this movie was like, we're gonna try and aim for cheap laughs in the drama, which it does. It's a big disconnect in that, you know. Um, yeah, and I like her. Like I didn't really vibe with her characterization. I also think part of it for me was it gave me a bit of Showgirls vibe with Elizabeth Berkley from Saved by the Bell, like a person who's essentially a young child actor or actress immediately going to their big break or their next big project is more adult themed, and that's what it felt like for me watching Mickey Madsen, because she was, I think her other show was Better Days, I think, on FX, where she's plays a typical teen, and now she's doing like full blown like adult uh thematic stuff, and this was kind of a weird jump, especially the last thing I saw, you're like a teenager complaining about high school kind of thing. It's kind of
Mm.
a weird jump. So that I think that was part of it for me. And I also think the another thing that took me out, and going back to the point of the city as a character, is the generic music. Like music is also meant to drive the movie forward. Music is an element, it's a character. But the shitty like YouTube downloaded beats that were playing, like you remember the video of Cassie the rapper where he's making his beat and it's a shitty beat and he's vibing to it like it's fire. That's what all the music in this movie made me think of. Like I could not get into the movie and the settings because like the style, like synth wave kind of popish, kind of like deviated from the grittiness of the story they were telling. Like, and I don't know. And the only time it actually fit thematically is when they go back to the club she used to strip at near the end, and DMX is playing, and her and the other girl are fighting. That was the only time where the music matched thematically what was happening in the scene, and so
Yeah, I don't know what I said before. In terms of the music, I didn't really recognize it. Like it not recognize it, sorry. I didn't notice it in terms of like a story as a storytelling device. I feel like the music was just kind of like background noise. Like it was there to say, okay, well here we're
yeah,
in a club and then she's doing this private dance for him
yeah,
at his house and stuff like that. The song that after they get married and they're like in Vegas and like that to me was really good because it gave you like it made you feel like how the character felt, which is like
mm-hmm.
hopeful, excited, like everything is new and cool. Like that song, I don't know if I think it might have been an original because I've never heard that
Hmm.
song before, but
Yeah,
I really liked that song as it fit in terms of like
in that
how the
moment,
story was and yeah,
yeah,
exactly that moment. All the other songs, I don't really remember them. The music wasn't like a huge part of it to
hmm,
me, which is like sometimes I feel like if you're really intentional about it, then it will be. Like,
hmm,
for example, like the music and the score in Challengers
yeah,
is a huge part of the
part of
film.
it,
Like
yeah,
you take that out, the film's not really
yeah,
like whatever. So like sometimes the music can give you that energy and kind of match those every single moment because it's so built in, but
hmm,
other times it's not. It didn't distract me too much from this film.
hmm,
Um, so Yeah. But then I think that her performance, as you said, you weren't like really into it because like you had seen her in something previous
Yeah.
before this. I haven't seen her in it in anything. I mean, she was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I don't remember her in that movie. I don't really remember that movie that well. No offense to Quentin, but that was not one of his
Yeah.
for me personally, that was not one of his best. So I don't recall her being in that.
Hmm.
So I didn't know where she came from. It wasn't
Yeah.
until after I watched the movie and I was like, oh, she was in this and that and that. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Um, but I think it was good that I didn't know because I don't know, there's something about the character who like she puts on this like toughness. Um, and maybe that can be definitely a little bit off-putting. Like I can see how it could be off-putting,
Hmm.
for sure. But she really does have like this naivete and like sensitivity that definitely comes through, and um, it definitely comes through in a lot of these scenes.
Hmm.
And I feel like what the humor piece of it, I don't know. I didn't expect it to be funny. I actually didn't know what to expect about this movie. When it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, I was like, "Oh, okay, it's like it's a sex movie that I'm probably gonna wait and see." Like I was
In a
not
rush.
interested
Yeah.
to see it. It was the same thing with Titan. Like I
Mm.
was just like, "Oh, it's a movie about a woman who has sex with a car. Okay, whatever." And then
Mm.
I watched it and I was like, "Wow, this is actually way deeper than like that first like a little headline that everyone's talking about. Like there's so much more here." And I actually really liked that movie because it did dig into like a whole bunch of stuff that I
Hmm.
was not expecting it to.
Yeah.
And even though this wasn't like digging in that deep into a whole bunch of things, I don't think like they brought up, the Russian oligarchy mob thing and the sex work thing. I think that was probably more explored than anything else, but like I don't think he dug in deep with any of these things, but I think what he did, Sean Baker did, is he did give us like a more intimate look at like a person who is in this world and how anything could happen in
Mm.
these kinds of scenarios. And I found that to be more engaging just because I found her to be engaging. Not that
Hmm.
everything else around her was like super interesting to me because like the guy runs off because he's a child. Like
Yeah.
he wasn't supposed like why of course he wasn't supposed to get married and like yeah, if it was me, I would also be like, okay, let's get this annulled. But like because she's so young and she's so like wrapped up in this dream of like, oh, this is what life is supposed to be like. This is why I think that they keep comparing it to Cinderella,
Yeah.
the whole like rags to riches thing, where it's
Pretty
like,
pretty woman kind of thing.
yeah, it's like, okay, I did all this work that I don't really want to do. I
Yeah.
am good at my job. I just don't like doing it. And now I have an opportunity to not have to do any of this work, just be rich and live my life. Like, that sounds great. And I guess when you're young, like, yeah, that does sound great. That sounds appealing
Mm.
to anyone. Like, yeah, who wants to do all this crap? Like, let's just marry somebody rich and be fine. Like, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I think it's her hope in that kind of better life, that American dream, whatever that's supposed to be. Um, that makes what happens to her later so devastating just because she just is like she really doesn't understand how the world works.
Mm.
It's like she understands how her world works in like sex work.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the broader world,
Mm.
it doesn't seem like she really understands that at all. So it was like a weird kind of I saw it more of as like a coming of age type of thing, more than a drama necessarily or a comedy. And I feel like the humor that came out of it was like it's very to me like Gen X, like Gen Z,
Hmm.
like very like dry, like it's not really like people just say and do things that are like kind of obnoxious, but like it's not like millennial humor. It's a different kind of humor. Like I can see this stuff, and I think that this is the reason why like this movie actually got a lot more visibility than maybe some other films have, because it did seem like it was kind of not marketed, but definitely it felt more like Gen Z kind of movie where it's like these certain scenes will go viral on TikTok or whatever. Like the characters are so like out of pocket and kind of annoying that like that kind of seems relatable or familiar to certain people or certain groups of people. So like I found it funny in certain aspects
Mhm.
because I was just like, what is going on? You guys are insane. um, but I don't know. I'm also like easy to please in terms of certain comedy. Sometimes some certain things aren't funny, but like to me, like the friends who were around them who were just like laughing at the fact that their boss was deaf, like
Mhm.
and blind, like that was sort of funny to me. I was like,
There are some moments there, but
yeah, there were
they're
some
far and few
moments.
between for
There were definitely
comedy.
moments in there. I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
that's kind of hilarious.
Mhm.
So like, I don't know. It really depends on your sense of humor and how
Yeah.
you like feel about these things, I think.
I mean, me after this. I mean, of course, win the Palme d'Or, you're going to be like all the other major award shows kind of have to drop you in as well. And looking at the responses from like numerous amounts of writers and directors, a lot of them tend to be predominantly white and American on that Gen X scale. And I'm also wondering, looking at the rest of other lists of movies that was up for the Palme d'Or at Cannes, like this and Megalopolis are the two sole American films, and Megalopolis was not going to win the Palme d'Or. But I'm wondering if there was an slightly um not purposeful, but might be have been a slight American bias with them all picking this award for it. I'm just wondering, looking at what's on the list, you have The Apprentice, which is also getting a lot of buzz, you know, with everything. You have Kinds of Kindness, you got Amelia Perez, you got The Substance. Other movies that were in the running that I've heard a lot more about from everybody else, and this was kind of almost like a whisper.
Again, I feel like that this is one of the things where it depends on which side of the internet you're on.
Yeah,
Because on my side of the internet,
yeah,
this is all I've been seeing for
yeah.
months. So, and I think and I feel like we've talked about this when we've talked about Cannes,
Mhm,
Venice, like when we talk about the festivals and we talk about the awards and stuff,
mhm.
a lot of the times you can't like predict what is gonna do what.
Yeah,
You just have no idea.
yeah,
Um, this is a film that went to Cannes, did well, right? But because it did win, it's like multiple people kept talking about it from
yeah,
on my side of the internet. Like all
yeah,
that, so I kept hearing about this, kept hearing about The Substance, and
yeah,
then you had these other movies like Amelia Perez, which I heard is terrible,
yeah.
and Maria, which I heard is not good either.
Mhm.
But because of the people who are involved in them, Selena Gomez,
Yeah,
Angelina Jolie, you're going to hear a lot more about these films, right?
probably
So it's
fair.
like Maggie Madsen, no one really knew who she was. So like you're not gonna have the same kind of buzz based on name recognition alone. Like
Fair.
it would have to be something else. And I think that because this is a film that does focus on something that most movies are not really dealing with, which is sex work, like
Mhm,
it's gonna get a little bit more traction. Like
yeah,
it is. So it's like I don't know. To me, my personal view of this film is that it was pretty good. Like it wasn't my favorite thing I've
mhm.
seen this year, but like it was decent. I
Yeah,
actually
no,
like
no.
what happens in
It
it. I don't
it
hate it. And
yeah,
especially in that ending, I'm like that's great
yeah.
because you don't really know like that ending when she's like messing with with the bodyguard or the goon. I don't know what he is. But he's like, but I like how they are trying to like subvert certain expectations of characterizations that you might be used to. And the fact that she is like at the end of the day, like just like a really young person. Like she really
Mhm,
doesn't understand or know herself enough to like figure out like what's going on. Like she's been
mhm.
using her sexuality for a long time to kind of get by.
And to
And then she
cope
gets
with
in
stuff, yeah.
and to cope with stuff. And now she's in this situation where it's like, nah, it's not about that. Like, are you okay? Like, what can we do? You know what I'm saying? It's just a very different, and I like that the movie kind of wrestles with that.
Yeah,
So to me, I'm like, yeah, if the people I can want to give it an award, sure, because I
yeah,
feel like at least it's interesting.
yeah.
Like at least it is trying to say something.
I look at this, at least for me. Like I said, I've watched The Apprentice, of course. I've watched Maria. I enjoyed Maria. Watched Substance. Haven't seen Amelia Perez. Um, I've seen Kinds of Kindness. So, and I was like, okay, I can see why these movies would get the praise and recognition deserved. But for me, this movie felt like, I don't know. It felt like, okay, so maybe if it didn't win the Palme d'Or, I'd be a lot more receptive to it and probably have us sing its praise a lot more, maybe. But my thing was just the expectation of knowing that this movie won the Palme d'Or, and you're dealing with recent winners like Parasite. Though like recent, like it's been a good run the last couple years of recent winners. So I'm having it. Okay, if it's comparing it to those movies, this movie has to be good. Like if it didn't win the Palme d'Or, I could go there now and say, oh, it was an amazing movie. You know what I'm saying? But the weight of expectation I had for it, based on the accolades it's receiving and the awards it's won, I'm kind of like, is it deserving?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I haven't seen those movies. I wasn't really interested in seeing Kinds of Kindness
Mhm.
because I feel like you can only deal with one Yorgos movie at a time. Like I just needed
True.
some time. I
This is
needed some time
true.
after Poor Things.
Yeah.
Um, but I heard The Substance was really good, and The Apprentice I haven't heard much about except for Sebastian Stan's performance, and I think
Hmm.
that's also another thing where it's like performance versus movie. Like sometimes the
Hmm.
performances will get a lot more attention, and then the film might because maybe the film was kind of just like and the performance was actually really amazing. And to me, that's where this film falls into. It falls into the movie might have not have been like all that, but the performance was great. Like I actually think that all the actors
Hmm.
were great in this. Like they all did their thing
But
in
yeah,
this.
the,
So
the
like
the performances were beyond what the writing was giving. I'm not going to deny that at all.
yeah.
So
And I felt that it was I mean Sean Baker has been writing about sex work apparently. I didn't know this for his whole career. Like that's what his
yeah,
movies have been about. Um And I'm always gonna side eye men who write about this topic. I'm sorry, like I just am because I don't know how like insightful your point of view is gonna be when you are a man. Like I don't know if you were maybe writing about men in sex work, that could be a different thing. But you're writing about women in sex work, it's always gonna be a little male gazy for me. Like even in this movie that's kind of how I felt about it. Like it I couldn't and for honestly, that was sort of the reason why I couldn't fully get into it. I'm gonna be 1000%.
sure.
Sorry if my prejudice is like annoying, but like it's just as we say, because we are black podcasters, we are gonna have a different lens than
Yeah,
white podcasters.
yeah.
As a woman,
You
I'm
have a
gonna have
different
a
lens than
different
I do.
lens.
Yeah.
And my perspective on this movie was it was like it was almost there. Like there was a lot that more that could have been mined from this experience, but
Hmm.
again, it was written by a man, so like it was only gonna get so far. And then the stuff that we got, especially in that first half, to me was like, yeah, it's just giving like a man is directing this,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I mean, yeah.
Which uh I don't know I don't know how I feel about it because honestly, I feel like if a woman had directed it, it would have been we would have got
Mm,
more. And also like in terms of like the explicitness of the content, it would have been more even.
and we probably would have been able to understand her character probably a little bit more. He's
Yeah.
just gonna do a surface level analysis of her, not the core issues that she has. Like you talk about the sex stuff, and even him, he spoke out himself against the topic of intimacy coordinators. He said
Hmm.
for him, he thinks it should be a case by case thing. If the actor wants one, sure. But he was like, yeah, I've directed like a bunch of sex scenes through my career as a director, and I'm okay with it. So I was like, okay, that's cool. As a director, cool.
Good.
You don't need it. You
Okay.
say you as a director, you don't need an intimacy director, but fine. But or intimacy coordinator as a director because you have the skill of directing these sex scenes in your movie. I guess I don't know how that coordinates between the two.
It,
It doesn't. Um.
it doesn't make
So
any sense because it doesn't matter what you want. You're not the one performing the scenes.
yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah,
Intimacy coordinators, especially when you're doing stuff like this,
yeah.
nah, necessary, absolutely written in the contract. Like you need to have them there.
Especially with talent who's just ascended into adulthood. You
And
know.
that we talked about this when we talked about Euphoria, but that's you just touched on a huge point there where it's just like it's always like the people who are up and coming who are having to do the most explicit stuff. And to me, that feels predatory. I don't care what
Mhm.
anyone has to say. That's my opinion on that.
Mhm.
I think that this was handled well because they had the intimacy coordinator there, and Mikey Madison, he wrote the character with her in mind, so they were able to collaborate very closely on it. So she had her input in it, which is great. I think that that's necessary at all times, but it is. I can't help but notice
Mhm.
that every single time we're doing explicit content, it's with these young people who are just entering the industry or who haven't done that much work.
And it's not the older talented actresses who are in their 40s plus.
Yeah,
They
I
already
find that
have the
interesting.
experience. They're not you're not sexually attracted anymore, so we don't want to see it like,
That's not true.
your Kate
They are
Winslet saying
beautiful.
they're
They are
no, I'm saying
beautiful.
that's their reason. Your Kate Winslet's, your Kirsten Dunst's, they're not viewed as the height of their beauty anymore, so they don't, get those opportunities or, even, Halle Berry's your older actresses anymore. It's all the young up and coming starlets who
Yeah, I find that a
uh,
little. Mm,
yeah,
hmm, hmm.
and you wonder why they get upset when they, complain about being sexualized, like Billie Eilish. Oh, why is she dressed the way she does? She's been sexualized since she was like 15 years old. Anyway, that's a tangent. Focus back on.
That's
That's a tangent. So, but yeah.
that's the truth.
So
That's the truth.
yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. But overall, I thought that the movie was pretty good. Not like the best thing I've ever seen, but also I think that last year in particular was it was a struggle bus year for movies. I
Mhm.
feel like we've gotten some really great stuff in the last couple of years, but this year was it was a lull.
Mhm.
So, um, for this to be one of the year's best, I guess so, because there wasn't like a lot of selection. So,
Yeah.
okay. But I also thought that it was like a really interesting topic to cover. I saw a video of someone saying that like Hustlers, that movie that Jennifer Lopez was in, like it
Mhm.
covered the same thing, didn't get nearly enough like half of this attention. Like people barely it was like barely recognized by the Academy or any of these awards things. So like the fact that this has come around just a few years later and is doing so well, I think speaks to hopefully a little progression in like how we are viewing certain these kinds of like taboo topics,
Mhm.
and hopefully making them more normalized. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Mikey Madison. Love her, think she's great. But yeah, and
Yeah, no, yeah, like I said before, amazing. Not amazing, good film. It's just for me, like the level of expectation, it didn't meet the standard. And yeah, I guess shouts to Sean Baker. I mean, this is something he frequently does. He kind of shows these taboo subcultures that we have in American society as far as sex work. Kind of puts it in the forefront of his projects. Got to give him credit for that too. Although he kind of the whole stuff with intimacy directors and him kind of claiming himself as being the trustworthy male director in the post Me Too era of Hollywood, it's kind of kind of ick, but still got to give him his props. This is still a wonderful picture. Even though
yeah,
it didn't hit the highs that I was expecting it to. Like, I wasn't expecting this to be like Megalopolis and get disappointed. This was kind of a movie that came out of nowhere for me. That I didn't hear
mm,
much about until it got the award. But yeah, I would still say, I would still recommend people to go watch it though.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Moving on from that. Uh, got some news. It's a little scant news. The first one, of course, the big draw today, with the stock market was the fact with the release of DeepSeek, a Chinese AI app, which is kind of grown in prominency, as a startup, and it kind of tanked a lot of, almost. U.S. stock market lost about $3 trillion once this app has gone public. This extends to fears the U.S. have had of Chinese products and also the whole AI thing. It was a big focus in the industry in Hollywood the last couple of years of wanting to push AI. And now the tech side of all these hedge fund guys, they're panicking because apparently this app also, well, this AI software works at a fraction of the energy usage and consumption and a fraction of the cost that these major ones from Google, Microsoft, Nvidia do. So they're getting hit as well as what led to the stock market crashing a bit today. It'll probably stabilize and we'll see, legislation come try to stop them because that's what they do when American companies are afraid of competition from other countries, they panic and stuff. So, but yeah, we'll see how this also impacts the industry because, like I said, a lot of AI does use or they're trying to push AI more in the entertainment industry and what machine learning and all stuff. So we'll see how that continues with the this development from this new program, I guess.
Okay, so another big juggernaut of news that came out while we were on break was that the Oscar nominations have been revealed.
Mhm.
And like I said previously, 2024, coming up the high that 2023 was, it felt to me, and I felt it early on in the year, but I was like, you know what? The festival season hasn't started yet. Like, let me give it a chance for things to roll out and be great. And the rollout came, and then there were like a couple of things that were like peak interest, but
Mhm.
for everything else, like it was just kind of like, ooh, this year is not 2023.
Yeah,
That's that's what I'll say. It was not 2023. So, but in terms of like the nominations, it's basically what if you had been paying attention to the earlier awards that had started like in December of last year, whatever. Um, Pretty much the norm. The Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown, is in there. Wicked, Conclave, Anora, The Substance, Amelia Perez. Just like the things that have been talked about, I guess
yeah,
most. It was interesting that Baby Girl wasn't in there or
yeah.
Maria or like
Sing
other The
Sing.
Apprentice. Sing Sing wasn't in there.
Yeah,
Coleman Domingo did get an Oscar nomination though,
he
so
did for that. Yeah.
there is something, but yeah. So the I think again, like we were saying earlier, like you're just not really sure when it comes to like festival talk of like what's actually going to be nominated versus what actually ends up being nominated. But yeah, it kind of what I was expecting to be up there was up there. I'm glad that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande got nominations. I think that's really cool. I haven't seen Wicked like in full, but I've seen pieces and it looks good. So I'm gonna go ahead and say congratulations, Wicked. Your messy press tour and just like the insanity that like making that movie was.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. Get your flowers. Um, the Amelia Perez thing is one of the sticking points for a lot of people who are paying attention to this, just
Yeah.
because one of the controversies is the fact that like it has a trans actress who is playing who I think is the main character of the film, and they got a nomination, which is really cool. But like from what I'm hearing about the movie is that it's very disjointed in its tone. Like it's a crime thriller, but also a musical. And when my friend told me that, I said that doesn't make any sense. But I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know what actually ends up happening. But from all the creators that I watch who are into
Mhm.
these type of things, they're like, this is a really bad Oscar contender. Like, it's not a good movie. Like, so maybe this is like the Green Book of this year. I don't know, but I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I really can't say what it is. I can't say if it's good or bad. But from all of the conversations around it, I feel like there are a lot of people who are annoyed that this film is in the best picture lineup because it's like
I love the fact we use it's the Green Book of this year's. Oscars because I have heard that being thrown around for that this movie this whole
Really?
award season. So you are spot on with that, and I do agree. It's really disjointed. Um, and I guess every time there's a big, I don't know how should I put this, a big project, particularly in the States, with minority talent. This is all Latin cast for the most part.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's always gonna like, oh yeah, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Trying to overcompensate for years of neglecting these talents in their projects, And I don't want to like say I don't want to discount it, but like I said, I don't think this movie should be there, and I'm kind of upset Sing Sing is not in there in that spot.
Mm.
And that's the thing. And also with Best Picture, they have expanded Best Picture to include like 10 movies before. That was no why
Yeah.
there was no reason why they shouldn't have included Sing Sing in this. But yeah, that's my only big upset about the Best Picture category. All other categories I think are kind of spot on. Um, yeah, like Amelie Perez isn't like the most amazing picture, but I think uh Jacques, I can't pronounce that French last name. But I do think he did an amazing job directing it. But yeah, it's kind of like I'm not surprised that a lot of these names are here for the categories they're given it. So,
Yeah, I think considering what we got, it makes sense
mm.
to me. And uh Dune's in there, right? Or am I
For Best Picture, Dune Part 2 is in there, yeah.
Denis is not is not nominated.
Yeah.
They will not give that man a nomination. Like
So,
it's crazy. It's actually wild. And I think that the cast of Wicked is upset that their director, John Chu, I think it is,
mhm,
also wasn't nominated for Best Director. Um, I don't know. I guess it's kind of hard because it's like you have a lot of Best Picture contenders, but you don't. There's not enough slots in the director
yeah.
category to match up with the Best Picture one. So
Yeah.
even if your movie got nominated for Best Picture, you could not get nominated for Best Director. So I don't know how. I don't know what that means. I don't know if the Oscars are going to do anything about that, but like,
I think we should just expand it. If you got 10 for Best Picture, 10 for Best Director, 10 for Best Lead Actor, Lead Actress, you know, and supporting actor, supporting actress, like those five topics at least
mm,
should all be like, or those five should just have the same amount of nominees across the board. Like even Robert Eggers is not in there for Nosferatu, which is getting rave reviews across the board. But
yeah,
they're up.
Nosferatu wasn't nominated for Best Picture either.
Yeah, it's just there for I think cinematography and
Yeah.
costuming and makeup and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. And again, it's bad because I haven't seen a lot of these movies, so I cannot speak on them really.
mhm.
But from what I'm hearing, there are certain movies that were kind of mid that were able to just find their way.
Sneak through based on name notoriety. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I don't know. What are we gonna do? Like this year, it's just so it's
should
so weird. It's so weird because it's like 2023 was like amazing. Like so many movies just like hit after hit after hit. And then for this year to not be producing that much like great stuff is so weird to me because what it does is that it takes all the movies that would have kind of been sort of on the back burner and kind of pushed them forward. But I cannot say that if any of one of these won, maybe Wicked, because I heard Wicked is like fantastic.
mm,
The Brutalist, I heard that was great too. So maybe, I guess, I don't know. But like maybe when I watch all of it, I can come back and have a more solid answer for this. But like from what it seems like, it kind of just seems like if any of those choices won, like it wouldn't. I would I don't know if anyone could really say like okay this was our year's best.
yeah,
It's just like this was what we got.
yeah. And I also think a lot of these also with Best Picture. I think if for consideration, I think box office numbers should be included a bit into it. And most of these movies, other than like Dune and probably Concave, has had the draw like for Best Picture. I do think there should be some consensus of the general public's enjoyment of this project as well, not just critics. I think critics should make up a small percentage of the voice, but what is the vibe the the viewing audience giving us? What movie did they attract? What movie is trending social media wise? So
Yeah. And I think that they are starting to do that. I feel like they did Wicked being a part of this is to me a huge nod to the fact that it was one of the biggest movies last year. So it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, it feels like they are like thinking about that factor. The other year it was Barbie. So like
Mhm.
they're trying. It seems like they're trying to at least think about it on that in that way. But also like, some of the big movies aren't gonna always be that great because they are big films. Like you can make a big film that has artistic merit.
Yeah,
Um, but that's not like a guarantee.
yeah,
Like it's not like a guarantee that all the big movies that come out are gonna be amazing.
yeah.
To me, Dune visually and it's a spectacle, like absolutely beautiful.
Mhm.
The story, like the writing, did not hit the way it did the first
Yeah.
one. So like it was a big movie, it made lots of money, it looked great.
Mhm.
So I guess it's a best picture nominee. Like I
I
guess that's
mean,
what it is. Like
for me, the two I'm looking at, and I'm just focused on Best Picture alone because that's the big draw.
mm.
I'm looking at Dune Part Two and Concave. Like I said, it's visual spectacle, the story, the writing for Dune Part Two, amazing. But Concave, set, costuming, performance of the actors, like those two are I can kind of see it going either way for Best Picture for those two movies. So
Oh, I think the Brutalist is gonna take it just because it's been winning stuff.
true.
I don't know. I don't have faith in the Academy to like break away and do something different.
Yeah.
Like I don't have faith in them. I have faith in the fact that they are just going to award the same people and the same things awards, and then that's what's going to win Oscar night. Prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Let's see if it's something different. But I even know that like last year everyone was like, "Oh, Challengers is going to be nominated for something." It didn't get
No, they didn't get
anything.
anything.
Queer, which I actually
Yeah.
thought out of Luca's movies that he came out with last year, that would actually be the awards contender, not challengers.
Yeah.
But also did not get anything. So again, it's like every year. That's why I kind of go into all this stuff like very
Not
like
caring.
yeah, or just like not believing the hype, I think is the thing
Yeah.
for me. Because like a lot of these films had so much hype, and then when
Mhm.
it came down to it, like a lot of these films were not even included into this situation. That doesn't mean that they're not good movies. It's just that like whoever was voting in the Academy decided that these were the movies that they wanted to nominate. So it's
Yeah.
like you can hear the talk. Honestly, Oscar conversation goes on from like the beginning of the year until we are at Oscar nomination day
Yeah.
the following year.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of chatter about like what's going to win and what's not going to win, what's going to get nominated. I feel like you can't listen to all of it. You kind of just have to go with the flow, watch the movies that you want to see,
Yeah.
like and that you like, and
Yeah.
then whatever happens,
Happens. Yeah.
happens. Yeah,
Watch
that's
watch what you like. Like
yeah.
even though this year was bad for movies, there is a big swath of stuff you could find for anybody to watch across the board. And the one movie I knew that was gonna be for any of these categories, of course, is Gladiator 2. I knew that movie
Yeah,
was not
I
gonna
knew
get
that wasn't.
any nominations at all.
Mm-mm.
So so yeah.
Nope. Oh, poor
Especially after
Gladiator.
your cinematographer comes out and saying, yeah, Ridley Scott doesn't like actually reshooting scenes properly. He just wants to do one take and shoot for coverage. Like after that story came out, I was like, oh yeah, this this is not gonna.
Honestly, I feel like if you watch the movies, you can kind of tell, right?
Yeah,
You can kind of tell what's going to be,
yeah,
even the movies that are kind of Oscar baity, there's not even a guarantee that all those will work.
hmm,
Something like a complete unknown to me is like an Oscar baity movie and it got nominated. So that wasn't like a surprise to me. But there were other movies that were also Oscar baity that did not get nominations. And I was like, okay, we'll see
yeah,
then. But especially in terms of Gladiator 2, when I was watching the movie, I was like, yeah, this is definitely not going to get nominated for
yeah,
stuff. I think Denzel, if he got nominated for something, that would have been cool. But even that was kind of a long shot just because
yeah.
it's like
So much was
you were like the one good thing in the movie.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
The movie was overall
yeah,
was mid if you're being generous. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And because Ridley Scott is so old, like he doesn't want to spend time like shooting stuff. That's why he does like I'll put like 20 cameras out there and just like get all the shots that way so I can go home. And for me, it's just like Ridley, baby, like you don't actually have to make these big movies. You can chill.
he doesn't have to even be there to reshoot scenes. Let your second unit. people take care of it. You can like, all right, we're not even second unit. You got your assistant director or if you're a cinematographer, like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I
Like,
can't be on the set right now. I'm
yeah,
old.
if
You
you're
do
too
the
tired, then don't do it. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I
yeah.
don't know. And especially because the first Gladiator was like, I think it won an Oscar and
It
won
won an
multiple
Oscar. It won like
Oscars.
7 Oscars, I think.
For this to be the follow-up, like
Yeah.
that is embarrassing a little bit. Sorry. It's a little embarrassing. Anyways, so yeah, that's what's happening. Every year, Oscar nominations roll out. Everyone's upset. So like, fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else?
Yeah. I mean, on a lighter note, to close out, this Oscar talk, this AI talk, apparently there's a Dr. Seuss movie being made, Dr. Seuss. It's gonna be released on March 28. They've kind of found, I don't know, the last couple of years have been a couple Dr. Seuss movies. They had the Lorax one year, or Here's a Who. I know Michael Myers did uh Cat in the Hat one years ago. So
Great movie.
it's kind of a low key film franchise of Dr. Seuss books. It is being released by Warner Brothers, which ironic here, doing these kind of fun film projects that kids love from a beloved kids book, but then you like shut down Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers. Like funny how that works, Warner Brothers is a tire fire. But yeah, it's so the Dr. Seuss movie will be all the places all the places you'll go will be um released of March 17th, 2028 in IMAX with John Chu directing the movie with being production with JJ Abrams. JJ Abrams kind of hit or miss. We'll see how much he's involved in the actual writing of the screenplay. Um because JJ Abrams the director is much better than JJ Abrams the writer. So we'll see how that goes. But sources from Warner Brothers have said that this movie is a high priority for them. Yeah, because it's one of their franchises that they have. So we'll see how that goes.
I mean, I guess I don't know, maybe because Disney has Pixar and those movies are for
Mhm.
kids and they do so well.
Yeah.
I guess they just want to get into the game with that with their Doctor Seuss stuff. But it's like it's Doctor Seuss. Warner Brothers is just like the queen of making movies that no one cares about or asks for.
Yeah.
But they will do it anyways. They will make it.
I mean, they apparently this is a really high priority because they pulled John after John Shu right off of Wicked, and with the news of all these nominations, they're like, all right, cool, we're putting you into this,
Yeah, which is good. I'm
project,
glad
which
that
is
he's
good,
working.
which
Yeah.
is also rare for like essentially kid targeted movie
Mm,
to pull a director of that level and say, hey, we want you to, and also make it this linchpin. So see how that goes.
there it is. Okay. So let's talk about what we have been watching. Yeah.
Um, amidst massive amount of freezing weather and snow and coldness, one should not be a temperature I should wake up to at all. We mentioned it earlier last year or middle of last year about the drama from Clint Eastwood's Juror Number Two, um, particularly the distribution issues Warner Bros. Did not want to initialize with the movie. I did watch it, and man, I must say it is a disappointment. Warner Bros. Did not push this movie at all
Mm,
when they had the chance to, like in around November, marketing wise, because it is a good movie. Nicholas Holt does an amazing job. So does Tony Colletti as well. Uh, like it's a crime drama where somebody accidentally kills somebody alcoholic and they're at a court, and the murderer is also you know a juror on the for the case of this murder. It's really intense, and you're waiting for when Nicholas Holt is gonna break and get find out. You got J.K. Simmons in it, like Kiefer Sutherland is there. Like Warner Brothers really dropped the ball this man, because I do think probably had they didn't do due diligence and actually prioritize this film, it might have been up there for Best Picture. To be honest, it is that good in my opinion. So,
mm.
but yeah, disappointing.
Okay.
But yeah, if you have anybody has a chance to watch it. Watch it. You won't be disappointed at all.
Yeah, I think it's on. think it's on Max actually right now.
Max? Okay.
Um, I don't like Clint Eastwood, but I will check it out if
Yeah.
it's good.
He's one of those directors I've kind of had to say, like, I really don't like your personal stuff, but I cannot deny as a director, the movies you pick, the movies you choose to do are really good. I
Mm,
can't, I can't, as much as I want to, not give him credit. I was like, I got to give you props, Clint Eastwood. I really do. So,
okay. Um, I watched Severance season 2. Not all of it, because not all the episodes are out, but the first 2 episodes, I've watched that. This show is like incredibly intoxicating in terms of like your viewing experience because it breadcrumbs you in the like in a nice way where it's like you cannot wait for the next episode and you're eating up like everything that is
mm,
going on screen for however long the episode is.
mm,
It's like it truly is like one of the best shows that's come out in the last however many years. Like it's so good. It's crazy. It's like I am so severance pilled right now. Like I cannot explain to you. Like the theories about like what is going on. It's so I don't know. It's taking up so much space in my brain because I'm really like invested in knowing. I watched it with my friend like the whole way. Like I binged it. We binged it in like what 2 days or whatever.
mm,
But once it was over, I was like, man, I cannot wait for the show to come back. And it was like one of those shows where it's like you cannot wait for it to come back. And now that it's back, it's like I have so many questions and they're like giving you hints. They're not even giving you answers. Like they're just giving you little hints here and there. And like it is and I also think like the marketing and like the aesthetic of the show is really appealing.
mm.
Like Adam Scott, who is a great actor, and I'm so glad that like he is getting his flowers because like I've grown up watching this man on various different shows and like movies, and I'm just happy that he is front and center now. But he was saying that like his kids who are like teenagers didn't care about anything that he did except for this. Like this is the one thing that they're like asking him like about the theories and like they want to know what happens and stuff. And that makes a lot of sense. In a weird way, it does. It's like getting into like young people's like visibility, like their space of like one media of like what they want to watch because they did this like pop-up at Grand Central Station where they were like in the Severance offices.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was and I was like that's such good and again so like it's like not just the show but it's like the aesthetic, it's the marketing of it that really is capturing people in such an interesting way. And yeah, and you're just like really invested in all the characters and stuff and now you're getting to see more of the Annie and the Outies perspective like at the same time in this season. So it's like the actors get to do basically 2 different characters, which is really interesting for them as actors, but also as audience members, we get to see more. So like, I am so excited to continue watching this show. I don't want it to end ever. I wish that they just released all the episodes at the same time, but it's okay. It's a show that you're like, okay, yeah, it's fine. I'll wait in anticipation each week to get a new episode. So
yeah. It's been like a wild ride watching the show. Like you said, props to like Adam Scott. Like I said, watching his career, like we said before, these comedic actors have amazing dramatic roles when they give the chance. They knock it out of the park. Find it weird to hear that he has teenagers, like I said, watching his career, but yeah. And also Ben Stiller as a director and one of the leaders behind this show and like Hoodoo. But yeah, amazing show.
Yeah, so excited. Yeah, that is it from us this week. We hope that you're all taking care of yourselves and doing well, especially this last past week. I really hope everyone's taking care of themselves. Oh my God. Make sure to check out all our social media, support us if you can, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.
Au revoir.